Alright guys, welcome to RC Mojo. This time we've got us some racing shackles. Part number YA0358. You get 2 in a packet, nice, but as they're quite cheap, I got 2 pairs. To go with them, we've got a towing chain with 2 nice chunky hooks. It's part number YA0357. Well, since we've got most of the towing bits, I thought we might as well add the steel wire rope, according to the packet anyway. Part number YA0373. Okay, a closer look at the shackles. They look like they're well enough made. The assembly comes apart without issue. You just unscrew the pin. The metal around the holes in the loop is a bit on the thin side, so if anything's going to break, it will be there. But time will tell. I reckon with occasional use, for towing anyway, they'll last for ages. The base is quite chunky, looks like it's a one-piece casting. Like the loop part, the meat around the holes is a bit thin, but as long as it's mounted on something flat it should be just fine. The pin has a nice smooth shoulder, so that will keep wear to a minimum. You also get a nice bag of M2 screws and nuts, useful if you don't have any. Nice! Here's the chain, all 96 centimeters of it. Pretty good quality, the hooks are nice and chunky, with an M2 screw and nut to secure the chain. All sounds good, but the chain appears to be your basic bathroom chain, which in general only have the loops pressed closed, so with any strong tension the loops will just open up and fail. Does look nice though, so as a scale item to stick in a truck bed or around some bull bars, it'll be ideal. And to complete, here's the well-named wire rope. Same hooks as the chain one with the M2 screws. The wire just wraps around the screw and is secured with an aluminium crimp. Looks pretty good. The wire has a plastic coating, so as long as you don't kink it, it should last well. Now, since I want to use the wire to tow some pretty hefty weights, I did a quick test. And not too surprisingly, the wire pulled out of the crimp at one end. I was loading it up to the extreme, but more on that later. No doubt I was loading it far more than racing spec'd it for, so no complaints from me. The fix was easy though. A short bit of brass tube, run the wire through, make a loop, run the wire back through, make a nice tight loop, and run the wire through the brass again. Then apply lots of flux and solder. Looks a bit messy. The brown stuff is the plastic coating on the wire where it's melted, but it'll work just fine. One more bit before we go and play. We need to mount one of the shackles. The first truck on the list is the MC8. It already has a rubber hook on the rear of the chassis, but being rubber it's really not meant to be used. So let's get modding. The cross member comes off, as does the rubber hook. This leaves us with a nice inset flat area. The shackle fits nicely, but unfortunately the holes don't line up. We could just drill a couple of new holes and put some screws in, but they would pull out in no time. We need to do this properly. Looking at the back of the cross member, we have 4 posts for the screws and some webbing. For a good strong mounting point we need a good flat surface. And 5 minutes later with the Dremel, here we have it. Next we need to do some fabrication. Just a chunky bit of aluminium cut to fit with 4 holes tapped M2. Simple. It just pops in the back. The holes in the cross member have been widened so they line up. I'm using some M2 cap heads that are longer than the racing ones. Plus, of course, they do look nice. So, why didn't we just use the screws and nuts? Well, it's all about spreading the load. The nuts would just pull through the plastic after a while. The aluminium spreads the load over a nice large area. Much better. Right, the cross member goes back on, all the screws done up, and yep, that works. Okay, what's the best way to test this lot? Well, a tug of war, of course. Possibly a little unfair, but it's all good fun. For now we just wrapped a zip tie around the axle on the Pajero. Not ideal, but it'll do. I'll only be using the wire rope. I know the chain one isn't going to survive all that long, so I'm keeping that as a nice scale accessory. So here we go. The Pajero can pull the MC8 pretty well, but when I give the MC8 some throttle, yeah, not a hope. 8 wheels of traction is hard to argue with. More to the point though, the modified wire, the hooks and shackle have survived. Right, enter the SCX-10. It's bigger than a Pajero, has a lot more torque available and more weight with a huge front bias. The tyres are very soft RC 4-wheel drive mud thrashers, so on paper it should do better than Pajero. Again, there's a zip tie tied around the rear axle to mount to. Right, here we go. Landy can pull the MC8 with some authority, but when the MC8 gets some throttle, game over. Right, we need something that will be a bit more of a challenge. Yep, 170 pounds. Bit of a struggle to get going with the small wheels on the rough surface, but once we got a bit of momentum we were off. Only cruising at around half throttle. Why, I hear you ask? Well, you may notice I'm a little bit wobbly. I've not been on one of these things for a good 15 years. My centre of gravity is not where it used to be. I'll give the Shackles some nice high marks. Used for towing the usual 4x4 RC, they're going to last quite a while. Just keep them clean to keep wear to a minimum. The chain looks lovely, so as a scale accessory it's great. The wire rope with some more substantial crimps and solder is nice and strong in tension. The hooks that come with both look to be nice and substantial, but like the Shackle, keep the screw end clean. And that's that, all done for today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button, and of course you can click subscribe if you haven't already, so you know when our next video goes live. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.